Isaiah chapter 31 begins with a condemnation of Judah's reliance on Egypt for military help in the face of the Assyrian threat. The prophet warns that seeking alliances with foreign powers instead of trusting in God is foolish. Egypt, despite its military strength, is depicted as a fragile and unreliable source of support. God calls the people to recognize that true help and strength come from Him alone. The chapter emphasizes that trusting in human power, rather than in God's divine protection and guidance, will lead to failure and disaster. The chapter further underscores that God will fight for His people. Isaiah speaks of God's mighty power to protect and deliver Judah from their enemies. The people are reminded that while Egypt's horses and chariots may seem impressive, they are no match for the power of God, who can strike down their enemies with a single blow. God will not allow the Assyrian army to conquer His people because He is their true protector. Isaiah encourages the people to put their faith in God's strength rather than in the false security of worldly alliances. Isaiah also declares that God will bring judgment upon Assyria, the very nation that Judah fears. Assyria, despite its seeming power, will be defeated by God's hand. This is a powerful reminder that no nation or ruler is outside of God's control. He will repay the pride and wickedness of Assyria by bringing it to ruin. The prophet assures the people of Judah that they do not need to fear the Assyrians, as God will ultimately bring them to justice. The message here is that God governs all nations and will act in His time to bring about His purposes. The chapter concludes with a call to repentance and trust in God. Isaiah urges the people of Judah to turn back to God and rely on His guidance. If they do, God will deliver them from their enemies and restore them. The people are reminded of God's faithfulness and power, and they are urged to abandon their trust in Egypt and their idols. Ultimately, God's victory over Judah's enemies and His protection of His people are assured when they turn to Him in faith and obedience. The chapter concludes by highlighting that God's deliverance will bring joy and peace to His people. Let's now read Isaiah chapter 31. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong, but they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Yet He also is wise, and will bring evil, and will not call back His words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of them that work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men, and not God, and their horses flesh, and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out His hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. For thus hath the Lord spoken unto me, like as the lion and the young lion roaring on his prey, when a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor abase himself for the noise of them. So shall the Lord of hosts come down to fight for Mount Zion, and for the hill thereof. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem, defending also He will deliver it, and passing over He will preserve it. Turn ye unto Him from whom the children of Israel have deeply revolted. For in that day every man shall cast away his idols of silver, and his idols of gold, which your own hands have made unto you for a sin. Then shall the Assyrian fall with the sword, not of a mighty man, and the sword, not of a mean man, shall devour him, but he shall flee from the sword, and his young men shall be discomfited. And he shall pass over to his strong hold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the ensign, saith the Lord, whose fire is in Zion, and his furnace in Jerusalem. This ends our reading of Isaiah chapter 31.